Hello everyone, here is Afra Siab. Today we are going to solve Cambridge IGCSE Physics Paper 4 Theory Extended held on May-June 2016 and paper code is 0625 with variant 41. So let's start from question number 1. Question number 1, Part A. A bus travels at a constant speed. It stops for a short time and then travels at a higher constant speed. Using the axis in figure 1.1, draw a distance time graph for this bus journey. So first of all, here is figure 1.1. We can see that this is a distance time graph. Distance is taken along the y-axis and time is taken along the x-axis. We have to draw the graph for the motion of the bus. First of all, bus travels at a constant speed. Constant speed means that with the passage of time, bus also covers distance. So it will be a straight line. So for the constant speed, I am going to draw the curve. It will be like that. Next part is that bus stops for a short time. When the bus stops, it means that time passes, but bus does not cover a distance. So there will be a straight line that is parallel to time axis. I am going to draw this line here. And third part is that then it travels at a higher constant speed. Again, the bus starts to travel at a constant speed, but at the time its speed is higher. So its graph will also be the straight line. I am going to draw here. So this graph basically shows the journey of the bus. Part B. A lift elevator starts from rest at the ground floor of a building. Figure 1.2 is the speed time graph for the motion of the lift to the top floor of the building. Here is figure 1.2. We can see that it's a speed time graph. Speed is measured in meter per second while the time is measured in second. Use the graph to determine the distance from the ground floor to the top floor of the building. So here we have to find out the distance traveled. Going back to figure, we can see here it's a speed time graph. And the area of the speed time graph is basically equals to the distance traveled by the elevator. I write here distance is equal to area under graph. So we can see here that first of all, curve is like that. Then it becomes parallel to time axis and then it is shown here. So first of all, I draw lines here and split the graph into three parts. So we can simply say that there are three areas. If I consider it is area 1, this is 2 and this is 3. We have to find out the distance travelled, and it is equal to the sum of area 1 plus area 2 plus area 3. I write here area under graph is equal to area 1 plus area 2 plus area 3. So first of all, I find out the area 1. We can see here that this region is basically a triangle, and the area of triangle is equal to half base multiplied by height. I write here formula. Area is equal to half base multiplied by height. In our case, it will be half base is time multiplied by speed v. So first of all, here time is 0 second, and at this point time is 7.5 second. So the difference of time is basically 7.5 second. So I write here 1 over 2, time is 7.5 multiplied by speed. At this point, we have to find out the value of speed, and it is equal to 3.3 meter per second. So here I write 3.3, it is area 1. So I write here area 1 is equal to 1 over 2 multiplied by 7.5 and 3.3. Now I find out the value of area 2. Here time is 20 seconds, and at this point time is 7.5. And we can see that area 2 is basically a rectangle, and the area of rectangle is equal to base multiplied by height. So here base is 20 minus 7.5, which is equal to time. It is 12.5 multiplied by speed. So the speed is 3.3, it is 3.3. So the area 2 will be 12.5 multiplied by 3.3 plus area 3. Here it's also a triangle, and the area of triangle is basically half base multiplied by height. So it will be half. Here time is 25 and it is 20. So time will be 5 multiplied by speed is 3.3. So I write here area 3 is equal to 1 over 2 multiplied by 5 and 3.3. So it becomes as 12.375 plus 8.25 plus 41.25, and it will be equal to 61.875, which is equal to 62, and the unit of distance is meters. So I write here distance is equal to 62 meters. Question number 2. Figure 2.1 shows a dummy of mass 70 kg used in a crash test to investigate the safety of a new car. The car approaches a solid barrier as 20 meters per second. It crashes into the barrier and stops suddenly. Part A. First, calculate the momentum of the dummy immediately before the crash. So first of all, in figure 2.1 we can see that there is a barrier and the car is approaching towards this barrier. There is also the dummy here. We have to find out the momentum of the dummy before the crash. So first of all, it is given that the car is approaching towards the barrier with 20 meters per second and it becomes stop. It means that after crashed into the barrier, its final velocity is equal to 0. We have to find out the momentum of the dummy before the crash. So we considered only the initial velocity. I write here, as the momentum is the product of mass and velocity, so momentum P will be equal to m and v, where m is the mass, which is given here 70 kilogram. So I write here 70 multiplied by v, and it is 20 meter per second. So I write here 20. So the value of momentum comes to be 1400 Newton second. Also I can write it as 1400 kilogram meter over second. The momentum is equal to 1400 Newton second. Part 2. Determine the impulse that must be applied to the dummy to bring it to rest. So here we have to find out the value of impulse. First of all, I write here that impulse is the product of force and time. But here we don't know the value of time and the impulse. So according to Newton's second law of motion, F is equal to ma. I write here force is ma multiplied by time, where acceleration is change in velocity over time, that is delta v over t multiplied by t. This t cancels by this, so it will be m delta v. As we write earlier that the product of mass and velocity is basically equal to momentum, here delta v is involved. It means that this term is basically the change of momentum. So I can simply write here impulse is equal to change in momentum. In the part first, we calculate the momentum before the crash, and final speed is equal to 0. It means that the change in momentum will be equal to the momentum before the crash. So I write here change in momentum is equal to 1400 Newton second. So according to this equation, impulse also be equal to 1400 Newton second. So I write here impulse is 1400 Newton second. Next part B. In the crash test, the passenger compartment comes to rest in 0.20 second. Calculate the deceleration of the passenger compartment. So here we have to find out the deceleration. First of all, deceleration is the negative acceleration. Now I am going to find out the value of deceleration. First of all, I write here acceleration. Acceleration is equal to change in velocity over time. As the final velocity is 0 minus initial velocity is given, which is 20 meter per second here. So I write here 20 divided by time is given 0.20 seconds. So it will be minus 20 over 0.20. The value of deceleration becomes as minus 100 meter per second square. This minus sign basically shows that negative acceleration, which is also be known as deceleration. So here we have to write out the deceleration. So it will be equal to 100 meter per second square. Next part C. The seat belt and the airbag bring the dummy to rest so that it does not hit the windscreen. The dummy has an average acceleration of 80 meter per second square. Calculate the average resultant force applied to the dummy of mass 70 kg. So here we have to find out the value of the average force when mass and acceleration is given. So resultant force will be equal to ma, which is according to Newton's second law of motion. So here mass is given 70 kg and the acceleration is 80. So I write here force comes to be 5600 Newton. So I write here force is equal to 5600 newtons. Part D. The declaration of the dummy is less than the declaration of the passenger compartment. Explain why this is of benefit for the safety of the passenger. So here I write Newton's second law, F is equal to ma. As the declaration of the dummy is less, it means that A is decreasing. So when A decreases, force also decreases because here mass is constant. So when the force decreases, there will be less chance of injury for the passenger. So I write here, as the declaration decreases, force also decreases. This means that there is less force on the passenger. So there will be less chance of injury for the passenger because force is less. Question number 3. Figure 3.1 shows an oil tank that has a rectangular base of dimensions 2.4 meter by 1.5 meter. Here is a figure 3.1 and we can see that there is a oil tank and its dimension is 1.5 meter and 2.4 meter. The tank is filled with oil of density 850 kg per meter cube to a depth of 1.5 meter. Part A. Calculate. First, the pressure exerted by the oil on the base of the tank. Here we have to find out the value of pressure that is exerted by the oil on the base of tank. So first of all, I write here the formula of pressure. That pressure is the product of density, the value of G, acceleration due to gravity, and depth H. First of all, it is given that the density of oil is 850 because oil is filled in tank, so its density is 850 multiplied by the value of G is 10 meter per second square and the depth is given which is 1.5 meter. So I write here 1.5 so that the value of pressure exerted by the oil comes to be 12750 Pascal. We can see here that the significant figures are 2. So I also write here 13,000. 12,750 is also equal to 13,000 Pascal and I write it as 13 kilopascal because kilo is actually equal to 1000. So pressure is equal to 13 kilopascal. Next part 2. The force exerted by the oil on the base of tank. So here we have to find out the value of force using the formula of pressure, that pressure is equal to force per unit area. We have to find out the value of force here. So force will be the product of pressure and area. I write here force is equal to P cross A, where we find out the pressure in part 1 and it is equal to 12,750 multiplied by area. In the start of this question, it is given that the dimension is 2.5 meter by 1.5 meter. So the area will be 2.4 multiplied by 1.5. So the value of force comes to be 45936 Newton, and it is also be equal to 46,000 Newton, or it is 46 kilonewton, because kilo here is also 10 की power 3 or 1000. So I write here force is equal to 46 kilonewton. Next part B. The force calculated in part A2 is the weight of the oil. So here it is given that force is equal to weight. Calculate the mass of the oil in the tank. Here we have to find out the value of mass. Using the formula of weight, that weight is equal to the product of mass and acceleration due to gravity. Here we have to find out mass. It will be equal to weight over g, where in the start it is given that force is equal to weight. So I write here force over g. We have considered the value of force from the previous part. Here it is given, that is 46 kilonewton. I use this value here. It is 46,000 divided by the value of g is 10 meter per second square. So mass comes to be 4600 kilogram. I write here mass is equal to 4600 kilogram. Next part C. When he is checking the level of the oil in the tank, a man drops a brass key into the oil and it sinks to the bottom of oil. So when a man drops the brass key, then it sinks to the bottom of the oil. Part 1. State what this shows about the density of brass. So here we have to explain that either the density of brass is less, equal, or greater than the density of oil. So first of all, it is given that brass key sinks. First of all, I compare the density of brass key with the density of oil. If the density of brass key is less than the density of oil, then this brass key will float. But if the density of brass is greater than the density of oil, then the brass key will sink. Using this concept, here it is given that the brass key sinks. It means that the density of brass is greater as compared to the density of oil. So I write here density of brass key is greater than the density of oil. So that's why the brass key sinks at the bottom of the oil. Next part 2. Explain how attaching the key to a piece of wood could prevent the key from sinking. No, in the part first, we just drop the brass key into the oil and it sinks. But here it is asked that when we attach the piece of wood with the key, how this combination prevents the key from sinking. It means that when I consider key plus wood, it does not sink. Then second option is that it floats. So when it floats, when the density of this combination of key and wood is less than the density of oil. I write here density of key plus wood is less than the density of oil. So I write here if the combined density of wood and key is less than the density of oil, then this combination float. This combination means that key and wood. Question number 4, part A. Explain in terms of molecules why it is possible to compress a gas but not a liquid. So here we have to explain that why the gases are compressible while the liquid are not. So first of all, here consider a container. In one container there is gas and in the other here is liquid. Now the gas molecules are very apart from each other. There is a large spacing between the molecules of the gas, but the liquid molecules are closer to each other. The spacing between them is very small. So as the spacing between the gas molecule is large, so it is easy to compress a gas. But here in a liquid we can see that the spacing is very small, so it is not possible to compress the liquid. So I write here lots of spacing between gas molecules due to which gas is compressible. For the liquid molecules in liquid are very close together. So that's why the liquid is not compressible. Part B. Two containers made of insulating material contains the same volume of the water at the room temperature. The containers do not have lids. The volume of the liquid in each container gradually decreases. Part first. After a certain time, the temperature of the water has decreased to below room temperature. Explain in terms of molecules why the temperature has decreased. So here is basically evaporation. As the same volume of the water are in two containers and they don't have any lid. Both of these containers are not covered and their volume decreased. It means that the molecules of the liquid escape from its surface due to which its volume decreased. So first of all, here I consider the surface of liquid and the very high kinetic energy molecules escape from the surface of liquid and all other molecules that have low kinetic energy remains on the surface of liquid. So as the average kinetic energy of the remaining molecule decrease and kinetic energy is basically directly proportional to temperature. So the temperature also decrease. So I write here some molecules at the surface of liquid have more kinetic energy. Therefore, they can escape the liquid. As they escape, average kinetic energy of remaining molecules decrease. So does temperature. Because temperature and kinetic energy are directly proportional to each other. Part 2. One of the container is wide and shallow. The other container is narrow and deep. Predict which container has the greater rate of cooling. Explain your answer. So here we have explained that which container has greater rate of cooling. So first container is wide. It means that it has large area. And the second container is narrow. Here it has small area. So evaporation basically depends upon area. The container which has large area, there will be large evaporation. More molecules escape from the surface. As a result, the rate of cooling will be greater. The container which is narrow and deep has low rate of evaporation, so there will be small cooling. Actually, evaporation is directly proportional to area. So I write here wide container as it has large area and evaporation only happens at the surface of liquid. So it will have large rate of evaporation and also greater rate of cooling. Because the evaporation causes cooling, that's why the wide container has large rate of cooling. Question number 5, part A. State what happens to the molecules of a gas in a sealed container when the temperature of the gas is increased. So first of all, here I consider a container which is sealed at the top, and inside this there are gas molecules. We have described that what happened to the molecules of the gas when the temperature is increased. So when we increase the temperature, then the gas molecules moves rapidly. It means that the speed of molecules increase They collide more rapidly with each other and also with the walls of this container. So I write here, by increasing the temperature, the speed of molecules increases. Part B. A quantity of a gas is contained in a sealed container of fixed volume. The temperature of the gas is increased. State in terms of molecules two reasons why the pressure of a gas increases. So again, we have a fixed amount of gas in a sealed container and the temperature of a gas is increased. We have to explain in terms of molecules that why the pressure of gas also increase. So here we can see that as the gas molecules are shown here, they collide with each other and also with the walls of this container. So when we increase the volume, there will be more collision. Due to the increase of collision, there will be the pressure. So I write here, the pressure of a gas increase because the more collisions with the walls of container, more collisions with walls of container, as there are more collisions, so there will be greater change of momentum. First of all, I consider these molecules as it collide with the wall of this container and then it bounce back. So there will be the change in momentum. When the number of collisions are greater, there will be greater change of momentum due to which the pressure of gas also increase. So I write here greater change of momentum. Part C. A helium-filled feather balloon is held at ground level. The volume of the balloon is 4800 cubic meter. The pressure of helium is 98 kilopascal. The balloon is released and rises to a height where the volume of balloon is 7200 meter cube. Part first. Calculate the new pressure of the helium. Assume that the temperature stay constant. So here initial volume and pressure is given when the balloon is at the ground. When the balloon release, then the final volume also given and we have to find out the final pressure of the helium. And here we assume that the temperature is constant, it does not change. So first of all, in the Boyle's law, volume is inversely proportional to pressure when temperature is constant. I can simply write it as V is equal to K over P and K is equal to Vp. When I write this formula for two systems, K will be equal to V1 P1, which is also equal to V2 P2. So I simply write formula that P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. It means that the product of pressure and volume is constant. It does not change. So here we have to find out the new pressure, that is P2. I write here P2 is equal to P1 V1 over V2. Pressure P1 is given, which is 98 kilopascal. I write here 98 into 10 की power 3 multiplied by V1 is 4800 meter cube divided by V2 is 7200 meter cube. So the value of P2 comes to be 65,333 Pascal. I can also write it as 65,000 Pascal, which is equal to 65 kilopascal. So the pressure is equal to 65 kilopascal. Next, part 2. Suggest why it may be necessary to release helium from the balloon as it rises even higher. So it is necessary to release the helium from the balloon as it rises on a greater height. It is due to the reason that as the balloon rises, its volume increases. As the volume goes increasing at the greater height, it may be possible that the balloon bursts. So to prevent the balloon from the burst, we release the helium from the balloon. So I write here, to prevent the balloon from bursting. Question number 6, part A. Two students are measuring the speed of sound. The students are provided with a starting pistol, a stopwatch, and a long measuring tape. The starting pistol, when fired, produced a loud sound and a puff of smoke at the same instant. Describe how the students use the apparatus and how they calculate the speed. You may draw a diagram. So first of all, here we have to calculate the speed of sound. For that, there are two students and the distance between them is d. First student is there. And there is a pistol in his hand. Other student is on the other side and the distance between them is d. This student holding the stopwatch. The distance between these two students is d. So first of all, we have to measure this distance by using the measuring tape. Then the first student, I say he is first and this is second student. The first student fires the pistol and the moment when the other student sees the smoke, he starts stopwatch. And the second student stops the watch when he hears the bang from the gun. Speed of sound is calculated by dividing the distance that we measured with the measuring tape by the time that we count on the stopwatch, which is given formula that speed is equal to distance over time. So I write here, measure a distance between students measure a large distance between students one student fires the pistol and the movement. When second student sees the smoke, he starts stopwatch. Second student stops stopwatch when he hears the bang from pistol. So by using the formula that speed is equal to distance over time, we can calculate the speed of sound. Speed of sound is calculated using formula speed is equal to distance divided by time. Moving towards the other part. Part B. A device at the bottom of the sea emits a sound wave of frequency 200 Hz. Part first. The speed of sound in the sea water is 1500 meter per second. Calculate the wavelength of the sound in the sea water. So here we have to find out the wavelength when the frequency and the speed of sound is given. So using the relation that V is equal to F lambda, where V is speed, F is frequency and lambda is wavelength. We have to find out the value of lambda. It will be equal to V over F, where V is speed of sound, that is given 1500, divided by frequency is 200. So that the value of wavelength comes to be 7.5 meters. I write here wavelength is equal to 7.5 meter.